Do you know your constitutional rights? Our founding fathers died to give every American citizen freedom of speech, due process, freedom of assembly, and the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Rise, stand tall, be bold, and be grateful for your American heritage. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave, where everything is possible. And we are the people. Welcome to We the People. My guest today, Joe Pennacchio, was elected to represent the 26th Legislative District from the New Jersey State Senate in 2007 and was re-elected in 2011, 2013, and 2017. Senate Republican leader team in the Senate, Republican Witt was assigned to the State Economic Growth and Senate Military and Veterans Affairs Committees. He's been pretty busy. Prior to serving in the State Senate, Joe Pennacchio served in the New Jersey General Assembly from 2001 to 2008. He has been at the forefront of transparency in government, where his efforts are helping to bring a website to New Jersey where taxpayers can see how each and every dollar is being spent in a timely, user-friendly manner. On a website, a useful tool in cutting wasteful, questionable spending. Senator Pennacchio was the recipient of the Advocate for Open Government Award by the New Jersey Taxpayer Association, the Taxpayer Champion Award by the New Jersey Taxpayer Alliance, and received a perfect score as a guardian of small business from the New Jersey Federation of Independent Business. The senator and his wife, Diane, live in Montville Township. So, welcome to today's show, and hopefully you enjoy our episode. So, welcome to the show, Senator.
Thank you, Geeta.
I'm so glad you can make it today.
It's my pleasure.
All right, so just tell the audience a little bit more about your personal background and how you got to your personal role before we get into the questions.
Sure. I'm a product of Brooklyn. Growing up, the only thing I ever wanted to be was mayor of New York City. But there was a little bit of a problem when I moved to New Jersey because I think there was a residency requirement. But I got my training as being a dentist at NYU. I practiced dentistry, just recently retired 4 years ago, so having been between educating myself and being a dentist and serving the community about 40 years. 20 years ago, I decided to get myself involved in politics. So,
wow.
Albeit not the mayor of New York, but first at a statewide level, fundraising and things like that. Then I got elected as freeholder in 1999, subsequent to the Assembly, state legislature a couple of years later, and in 2008 I've been in the state Senate.
Okay, and so you said 20 years.
20. I'm a career politician. I never thought of myself as a career politician.
Wow. Yeah, time flies.
It does.
Okay, so you're working on obtaining justice for the wrongly convicted I have here. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, that's one of many things that we are working on. It's called the Innocence Commission. It's really two commissions in one. The first commission would take a look and come back to us and let us know why are people being forcibly imprisoned. The DNA is a great thing. It helps convict a lot of people, but also we can use it in a good positive way to also get people out of jail, that among other forensic sciences that are out there. And it's not only getting them out of jail, but what happens after they get out of jail. What type of restitution do we give them? There are educational issues, there are medical issues that are involved, so that commission would take a look at that. Also, the commission will take a look to see if they can form a more permanent type commission like the Innocence Project, except it would be funded by the state and controlled by the state. Another layer of people that are crying out they've been falsely accused, that they can take their grievances to that Innocence Commission, that panel, and that the panel won't be able to adjudicate, but it may carry enough weight to say to a judge, we think that you should take a look at this, or to a prosecutor, we think that this should be reviewed.
Okay, so are there a lot of innocent people in jail?
Enough. One is too many.
Wow.
I think nationwide we release 3 every day.
Wow. So why should citizens be more aware of the New Jersey Innocence Study and Review Commission?
Well, think of this. If the innocent person that committed a crime is in jail, Okay, that means the one that actually committed the crime is not in jail; he's amongst us in the community.
Yes.
So it's just, for me, it's a moral issue more than anything else.
see.
That the only thing I came into the service with was my good name, and I want that good name when I leave.
Okay, well said. So you introduced Mallory's Law to toughen anti-bullying laws. How did this come about?
Mallory Grossman had committed suicide. She was bullied in school. Her parents are constituents of mine. They live in Rockaway Township, Seth and Diane Grossman. Getting to talk to them, finding out what the issue was, spending an awful long time on seeing what we can do to help improve this, especially with the advent of social media and things like that. I think the problem's gotten worse. It hasn't gotten better. So we sat down, wrote up a list of things that we can do, put it into a bill, and we named it after Mallory. So it's Mallory's bill, and it's been introduced. It's in the Education Committee, and we hope that it can be heard.
Okay, good. So what's your current view on the Trump administration's ability to tackle the national issues at the moment, such as the border crisis?
Can't do it by himself. Okay, he's got the courts that seem to work against him, particularly the Ninth Circuit in California. He's got a do-nothing Congress, House of Representatives, literally done nothing. It's been well over 100 days. If you're going to do something, that 100 days is probably the most important. It's when you develop the most goodwill from the people that put you in that office. And aside from saying never Trump and being very, very angry that there was no collusion, can you imagine that? Being angry that not even one American citizen was cited in that report that haven't colluded with the Russians against our election. And yet they're very angry about that. To me, I take pride in that, and thank God that we have that type of value still instilled within us, that that type of crime was not committed. But he needs Congress. Those laws have to change. The asylum laws have to change. They're being gamed. So until we change those laws, we're going to have this problem continually.
And are you for or against the wall, if I may ask? Or do you think
I think in certain parts the wall is necessary. You don't have to take a look at more than on television, seeing people. It's an open sieve where people are getting in, where they are. Where the border checkpoints are, they're having a much better job of intercepting people that don't belong here. And I'm not one for sending anybody back. I think they're taking advantage because of the economic plights to come to this country. But we have enough issues, especially when it comes to crime, that we should not want to import them. Gang members should not want to import them. The drugs that may be coming through that southern border, we know it's coming through the southern border. We don't want to import that type of nonsense. We have enough of our issues without having to import them.
Wow, I see. Okay, and regarding the current state of the economy, what's your view on where we are?
Well, we sit here this morning, and just a few hours ago, it was announced that the gross domestic product, instead of going up 2.3%, went up 3.2% first quarter. Things are good. People a high level of unemployment rate across the board. Minorities, African Americans, Hispanics, women, historical numbers, and that rising tide. As John Kennedy said, not Ronald Reagan, that rising tide is certainly lifting all ships.
Yes. So we're seeing a lot of low unemployment and new job growth and less regulation.
We're seeing manufacturing jobs that was unheard of to think that they can come back, and they're coming back. And quite frankly, we give that credit to the credit should go to President Trump. That trajectory started even before the tax break happened because of him cleaning out a lot of the rules and regulations that stymied economic growth.
Right. Yes. Wow. So there's less regulations and there's more free enterprise.
There's more to go.
More to go. Okay. Good. So how is Murphy's tax break plan unfair? Or can you tell us what that is first?
Well, it's not a tax break. First, I'm hearing that it's a tax break. He wants to continue the additional taxes that he's already done. Last year, he had a millionaire's tax that was going to solve all of our problems. Lo and behold, it comes back a year later, and the millionaire's tax is not enough. He needs an additional millionaire's tax on top of the millionaire's tax. When you keep robbing Peter to pay Paul, okay, Pauls get to like you. And there's a lot of Pauls, but there aren't that many Peters. And those Peters, they vote with their feet and they leave the state, which is exactly what's happening.
Yes. Okay, so you're saying it's another increase in taxes.
It is an increase in taxes.
Okay. Yeah, so that never really works out in the long run.
Well, it's an increase in taxes. The budget gone up nearly 8%. The projections, the rosy projections they have of last year's budget, the economy the coffers growing by 7.5% is moon dust. It's crazy. Just didn't happen. At this point now, I think we're at about 3.5%, which is 4 percentage points less. We got to make that up. I think that translates to roughly about $1 billion. We have to make that up somehow, some way. So inherently, the cost drivers, the structural reforms, the governor just is not addressing those.
Okay. And yeah, I think we have here the budget that was approved last year by the Democratic legislature, signed into law by Governor Murphy, raised taxes by $1.5 billion. So it is dependent on revenues growing by 7.5% over the course of the fiscal year to stay in the black. So do you think this is going to be successful?
You mean the governor's proposed budget?
Yeah.
Already, I think that was DOA. Quite frankly, we don't have the money. Keep in mind, last year's budget included a lot of down payments. He had down payment for pre-K programs. He had down payment for free college education, down payment for some of the other social services. And they were going to be phased in, I think, over 3 or 4 years during the course of his term. Well, if you're only having a down payment and you're raising the budget by $1.5 billion, what does that tell you? It tells you he needs more money because those additional down payments for the second, third, and fourth term of his governorship still have to be made. And in the meantime, it took you 8 hours because they didn't clean the snow. First time in living in New Jersey in 40 years that I've ever seen that it would take an 8-hour commute because they don't know what they're doing for cleaning the snow.
So it should have been maybe a 20-minute commute.
Well, look, you fight, you lobby for big government, you lobby for all those taxes, you got it. But once you get it, then you don't know what to do with it.
So they're not efficient, is what I'm understanding.
Well, anytime. The
big government's never efficient.
Government in general is not efficient.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, it's a bureaucracy. Bureaucracies are not to be free thinkers. They're not made to be efficient.
Exactly.
They're made to subrogate yourself to the next level above you. End of conversation.
That's right, exactly. So they're just kind of 9-to-5ers, and they don't do the heavy thinking. So someone else is always making the decisions. We just follow the rules, and we don't really care.
Well, it's part of the weebie club.
Wow.
And you tell our selected officials we're the weebies. We be here before you, and we're going to be here after you.
Right.
Okay. In the meantime, who suffers? You take a look at anything that the government has its hands on, whether it's the post office, Amtrak,
the jails,
you name it. It's just a giant. The Veterans Administration is a giant behemoth. Very inefficient, very costly, and unfortunately, besides that, there's a lot of political cronyism that goes into these things. You take a look at the School Development Authority, which has been in the news lately, where oh my goodness, they fired half of the staff and they all replaced them with patronage jobs. People that had no skills at all. That knew what they were doing when it came to the financing of schools and stuff like that. Now the person that was heading it, that gave her husband a job and others a job, she happened to resign. And the question is, what took you so long? Why did you resign? So you have a very inefficient system, very costly system, and if you throw in political cronyism, corruption,
layered corruption,
it's a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what's happened.
So we need to really downsize and deregulate and kind of size down on the bureaucracy. It's becoming too expensive. So how have individual taxpayers, in terms of disposable income, been affected by everything you just said and the increase in the taxes and the budget? Murphy's budget plan?
Well, a few things. First, if I'm the government and if I take $1 of what you have, that's one less dollar that you have to spend. And contrary to what the government says, they're not the economic engine. The economic engine are small businesses, it's the consumers.
Yes.
So the less the consumer has, the less economic activity that we have.
Yeah, because they're not the economic engine, right? Like you said, it's the small businesses in America make the majority of business owners, and then the consumer, the end user who spends. So how is the government, it doesn't make sense.
Well, they'd like to take credit because they want your vote. But again, they keep robbing Peter to pay Paul because right now there's no Pauls. But those Peters, they're moving.
They're going to run out, and like you said, they're going to go somewhere else and vote elsewhere. You're going to lose them.
We are a very, very progressive tax state. The top 2%, I believe, pay 40% of all our state income taxes. The top 5% of earners, top 5%, pays 70% of all our state income taxes. Federally, half of the people, they don't pay any income taxes at all. So when you affect that top 1 or 2%, and they are so much involved with paying into the coffers of our state government, you cause people to leave. And when they leave, who's left? The people that are left have to carry that higher burden. At this point, it's the higher to middle income people. Eventually, it's going to trickle down to everybody. I'll give you one example. I believe his name was David Tepper. David
Okay.
Joseph Tepper. Used to run a hedge fund, Appaloosa Funds.
Oh, okay.
He, I think consistently, well over $100 million a year he would pay in for state taxes. The year before, I think he paid $140 million for state income taxes, okay? Wasn't enough. Besides not thanking him, he was chastised. He was part of that evil 1% that just not paying their fair share. So eventually, Tepper's family probably got a hold of him and said, we know you have a place in Short Hills, okay, but you probably also have, and I don't know if he has a place in Florida or whatever, but you also can declare your residency out of state. And can you imagine saving $140 million a year? And that's exactly what he did. It was such a big loss that the state actually had to reduce some of the budget numbers because $140 million is still a lot of money in a $30 billion plus budget. Wouldn't it have made more sense, instead of charging that man and chastising him for the $140 million that he pays, wouldn't it have made more sense and just better public policy to say thank you?
Yes.
We're not going to charge you as much, okay? And
less.
above all, we're not going to chastise you.
Because that's how you lose them then.
Yeah, now, who makes up that difference? Believe it or not, you make up that difference. I make up that difference. And somehow, some way, his loss is our loss. His gain is our loss.
Yes, yeah. Oh, it has to come from somewhere, right? So do you see this ever changing, especially in the state of New Jersey, in terms of more equality, or I guess being less progressive in terms of taxes? Do you see it reversing?
Just stop spending. Enough. These programs.
The programs are useless.
Or they could be well-intentioned. They all have a smile on their face.
But it's not efficient, like you said.
Well, it's not fair. Also, you have $13 billion from state income taxes, which should go to property tax relief and to education, and the vast majority, 31 towns, they don't call them Abbotts, but they are Abbotts. Those 31 towns suck out almost 60% of all our state monies that we give for education. So we're a town like Ashbury Park, I think, spends $37,000 per pupil. My town will spend, state average, $18,000. My town gets 4%. They get the vast majority of their education experience paid by us. That's not fair.
So the Democrats have behaved fiscally irresponsible. I mean, this is just continuing on, it sounds like, in the state of New Jersey with no abatement.
They practice great politics. They practice the golden rule. The one with the most gold rules. So whenever it's in their interest to satisfy their constituents, they do. The story, there used to be a real estate transfer tax. I think I've had the pleasure of voting for 3 increases on that real estate. And what they would do is they would drop the threshold when it applies. Going back to the last time, a number of years ago, they wanted to actually do it again, to drop the threshold one more time. Then the Democrats realized, oh my goodness, that's going to affect my constituents.
So the golden rule.
And that idea died. Okay, that's absolutely horrible public policy when you practice this type of identity and social politics.
Okay, wow. So I know you may have already answered this, but why do you think it's more important to create jobs and economic independence and self-sufficiency versus punishing business owners with tighter regulations and taxes? So in other words, why don't we lower the barriers to entry for business owners such as myself? I'm a small business owner. So why would they want more people like me instead of people depending on the government or someone else?
I think they take you for granted. I think they just assume if you don't move to New Jersey, or if you move out, somebody else will move in, but that's not true. For years, they've been saying we should quantify and do a study of why people leave. And they're leaving. I mean, New Jersey, the number one state for exodus is New Jersey. New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, three top states.
And are you saying that the higher income people are leaving, or higher taxpayers?
Most of the people that are leaving are higher income
because the taxes
people.
are too high.
Because the taxes, property taxes are suffocating them. If you're retired, and you're lucky enough to make $100,000 in annuities and retirement monies, the first $100,000 is not taxed. But the little dirty secret is if you make 1 penny over that $100,000, then the entire $100,000 is taxed. So just for estate planning, you can save roughly $8,500 a year, $9,000 a year, just by moving out of state to a state that doesn't tax it, like Florida.
Or they even go next door to Pennsylvania and New York, do you find? Or
well, the Pennsylvania, I think, is more generous in their treatment of retirement.
Well, my parents live there,
And just the top rate in Pennsylvania is roughly, I think, 3% and change. New Jersey, it's well over 10%, the high income earners.
Oh, for the income tax?
Yeah.
Oh, it's not much higher.
Yeah. Now keep in mind, that's the state income tax.
Okay.
It's
The
a gross
federal-
income tax.
Yeah.
No deductions. Okay. Very few deductions. You go to a place of worship. If you drop a couple of bucks in the basket, it's more than a couple of bucks because New Jersey doesn't even recognize charitable deductions. So you're dropping $2 and hopefully a little bit more than that, but
Yeah.
for every dollar that you drop, you got to tack on 8% because the state doesn't recognize it, and you have to pay tax on it before you can give it to a charity.
Right.
One of many stupid things that the state does, but again, it doesn't affect their constituency. Okay, they have their own narrative of how they want to run the state, and that's all based on politics, not on good public policy.
Wow. Okay, so I didn't know about the charitable thing, so they hardly have any deductions.
No, the federal government wanted to eliminate them last year. I don't know if you recall, but then
Yes.
they put them back in. Okay,
Okay.
because a lot of these
Well, that's
charities,
really
they do
below
an
the
awful
belt.
lot of work that
Oh,
if
yeah.
they didn't do it, then we as taxpayers would have to wind up funding that.
Sure. Okay, so what is the first step to enacting government structural reforms to ensure fiscal responsibility in small government, if we could actually hone in on a solution to stop this?
Okay, the first thing I think that we need is transparency. A lot of things are done under the cloak of darkness. That the school construction the development authority is one of them. Nobody even knew what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
But once they put sunshine on them, they were embarrassed and they had to resign. So more than anything else, let's make sure that
Shine a light.
we have open sunshine government. Thomas Jefferson said the best disinfectant for government is sunshine. So sunshine above and,
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
above all.
Well, he's my favorite president. And actually, I have here, Thomas Jefferson said, most bad government has grown out of too much government. And I think that summarized everything you said. And a government big enough to give you everything you have is strong enough to take everything you have.
Well,
So-
tell me what the government is giving you. I mean, they gave us an education, but God knows through property taxes we paid an awful lot for that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And as bad as property taxes are, at least you control those dollars. They stay within your community for your education, for your police force.
So you
for
can spend
fire.
it more efficiently,
Okay,
right?
It is more efficient,
Than the
but
government.
as you take that dollar and it goes further away from you, whether it goes to the county and then it goes to Trenton, then it goes to Washington, that dollar, what you get back from that dollar is just it's a small amount of what
Fraction.
you should be getting back, and it becomes a lot less efficient because those eyes, that transparency is not on. Again, that government is just too big.
So you're saying to basically make it smaller so we stop spending, get rid of a lot of the programs, and then also get in with the flashlight, and for the people who are there and what they actually are doing, focus in on that and look and see how they could be wasting more money.
Well,
on
they
crime.
are wasting money because,
Yeah.
again, that bureaucracy, the only thing they're
Corruption.
concerned about is keeping their position. Okay, no free
at any
thought, no
cost.
efficiencies, just keep that position. And if you don't believe me, look at New Jersey Transit.
Okay, so what's going on there?
Nothing. Long lines, waits,
okay.
people closing down, accidents.
Well, I came here today on New Jersey Transit, and that it was a lot longer than I expected, actually. So I'm coming in from New York, and yeah, it's not efficient. I would say it's definitely not
No,
efficient.
not
You know,
efficient, it's expensive.
Yeah, yeah, that's another way to look at it too. So but again, it's just I think what Trump is doing now is kind of representative of everything you're saying. So get rid of the regulation, lower taxes, let people be more independent, less dependent on the government, clean up inefficiency, shut down programs that aren't working or shouldn't be in existence, right? And I think the economy is speaking for itself. So how are people actually criticizing this? Is what I'm not.
Well, politics.
Yeah,
Okay, again,
because
the
they're-
first 100 days and now past 100 days, what have my friends on the other side, the Democrats on the other side of the aisle in Washington, what have they done? Name the legislation that they've espoused to, that they want to mark, that they've worked closely with the Senate, which they haven't, okay? Name something legislatively that they have done the first 100 days, okay, that would make your head turn and say, I'm glad that we sent them there. Nothing.
Right.
The only thing they've done is Trump is bad. Mueller good.
I'm never Trumper.
Yeah, never Trump.
Or not my president.
Okay, and quite frankly, the president, I don't agree with everything he says.
Sure.
I could understand the angst and the way he tweets and things like that because he's got the Democrats against him, people in his own party against him. He's got the lobbyist K Street against him. Okay, he's trying to drain that swamp, and they don't want to be drained.
Right.
Okay, so he's taking all that criticism, and even after he's taken all that criticism, okay, the economy is still doing well. He's still putting America and America's interest first.
Yes.
To me, that's important.
Oh, yes. And I think that's what makes him unique and different as a president as well. I think his resilience, everything you just said, his own party, the other people against him, but he's still able to come out with results and deliver.
And
So
he
it's-
has.
He really has. I mean, I think he's had more results than any president in the last few decades in terms of tangible things to discuss.
He's unconventional, but again, I think he's a product of the politics that made him this way. He's not going to go gentle into that good night. He's going to fight.
Yes, we need a fighter.
And if you slap him, he's going to sack you. Okay, if you bring a knife, he's going to take out his gun. Okay, and again, if that's what it takes to gain the respect worldwide,
Yes.
if that's what it
With
takes
China
to put our American interests, our workers, our taxpayers first,
Yes.
okay, I am absolutely fine with that. Who in our lifetime challenged our allies to put up or shut up?
Right.
Okay, the deal was that they would have a certain percentage of their GDP for defense. They all have cradle to grave everything in Europe. You know why? Because we helped them by subsidizing their defense.
Right.
Well, the president said, well, enough of that.
Yes.
Okay, you're going to have to step up. You're going to have to pay up.
Oh yeah, I think it's time that other countries pay up, like even with Canada, just defending them, and even if not spending on the military, but just by being such a large presence that no one would invade Canada because we would step in. So it's all that kind of things. And when we go abroad, when we fight, then they don't come with us.
Well, the president got criticized for getting us out of NAFTA, and we should have never been there in the first place. But and even Canada and Mexico, they were critical of him. But the deal that he got is better than the deal that they had. The deal that he's working out with China now eventually is going to help not only us, it's going to help Canada, and it's going to help Mexico.
Well,
So-
I think it's time somebody stood up to China, somebody meaning an American president, because they've been dumping products in our economy for decades.
Worse than that, they've been stealing our intellectual proproperties,
Yeah,
making them there, and then dumping them on us.
Yeah. And then no one had the courage to stand up to this, what, for
And
50
I think
years?
President Xi was asked, and he said, "Well, nobody ever asked us, to stop." Well, guess what? The president is asking you to please stop.
Yeah, I mean, take the initiative, and really, I think he just goes that extra mile, and that's really made, again, that's where all these numbers are coming from. You're talking about job growth, GDP, like you mentioned at the beginning. That's where it's coming from someone who has a mindset of courage and resilience. And
I think the average of Obama, if it's not 2% GDP growth for the 8 years, they was there sort of close. I'll give him a year or two the first year because we had a terrible national recession. I got that. But to think that did he ever touch, I think he touched 3% 1 year. And here's the president, again, initially through deregulation, then the tax cut, and then just the idea that businesses know that they have a friend, okay,
Yeah.
in the White House, somebody that's not going to undercut them. You see a 3.2% growth. It was only projected that we were going to grow 2.3% last quarter, I understand, and it's actually 3.2%.
3.2, okay.
So, and that's
and this is for the first quarter of 2019 you're referring to?
yeah. And what does that mean? Well, that means that as the economic pie is growing, okay, more people are paying taxes into
Yes.
that. And then we, the people,
Yeah.
okay, we have less of a burden on our backs because it's being shared more equally by the rising tide.
Right. And also more jobs are being created by people like me, business owners. You're hiring more people, you get more profits, more money, you invest, you buy another business, you create more job growth, and it goes on and on.
But, and
right?
then why should you should be, they should give you accolades and thank you instead of chastising you.
Right. Well, it's almost like you're being punished to be a business owner.
Exactly.
And if they
But
know what
you
you go
are.
through, and Trump understands that because he was a business owner.
Well, I'm a retired dentist, and that was a business. Well,
Oh,
I'm
yes.
very prideful that I had 2 practices, and at the height of those practices, they were employing 21 people. That means 21 payrolls I was making, 21 workman's compensation that I was making. I would say almost half of them, they were the main breadwinners, and that made me very proud that I was able to do that. But then if you listen to some of my, off-the-wall, unhinged friends on the left side, called the Democrat Party, you would see that it wasn't enough.
It's never enough.
No, it's never enough.
It's
you're
a
not going to
sacrifice.
thank me. At least don't chastise me.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand, again, I mean, from a business perspective, a sacrifice a business owner makes, you're giving up your salary job, your safety zone, and especially if you have a family and you have kids, and just going out there and taking a risk, to create jobs for other people. And there should be more of a reward, and this is America.
You're not the first to get paid, you're the last. I was the
Oh,
last to get
yeah.
paid.
If you get paid.
You got to make payroll. The risk that you took, you
Yeah.
could have just as easily
There are
lost
some
all
months
that
we
stuff.
didn't get paid, you work for free, but you're
Right.
putting your spirit in it, and it's kind of like for the long run. It's
And you know
later.
when it's going to hurt? It's going to hurt when you retire. and you're going to sell that business. At least the federal government recognizes that that effort that you made, they're going to treat that tax differently. It's a capital gain. It's a long-term investment that you made in yourself and in your business.
Yeah,
State doesn't recognize capital gains, so that's ordinary income.
Okay, so you're saying, is that in the state of New Jersey?
You're going to have a nice big tax bill when you retire.
Okay.
They're going to be your partners.
Wow. So okay, so basically you pay you pay capital gains tax here.
On the federal level, New Jersey does not recognize capital
Okay, so
gains.
it's income, in other words.
It's ordinary income.
It's ordinary income. Okay, wow. Okay, well, all right. Well, yeah, we are out of time.
Make you feel better, right?
Yeah, that's. I'll take that thought home with me. But yeah, it's hopefully we'll see some change. Last question: where do you think you see New Jersey in 5 years from now in terms of taxes and everything we discussed?
We can't go the way we're going right now.
Okay.
We just cannot afford it. Within the last, well, it's not even 2 full years, but you have an 8% budget increase within the last 2 budget cycles. We just can't afford to do that.
Yep.
You raised taxes $1.5 billion last year. You come back to that same trough, and then eventually it's going to start affecting people, and to a point that they are going to move out. And the floodgates are open. I can't tell you. I must be approached, maybe because I am a state senator, but I must be approached almost every day with people telling me that they're leaving.
So emails.
As soon as my kids are out of school, I'm leaving. I know dozens of people that have already left. You may see them living in their house.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not their primary residence.
So Florida, Texas,
Pennsylvania, Delaware, even New York State. If you keep out of New York
that's
City,
kinda sad.
New York State actually is a better.
Because New York's very liberal. So if you're saying that's better,
no, I'm saying New York charges its own income
less,
tax. Think of this: the place where you really need those jobs. What are we going to do? And Newark wants to do this. They want to charge you an income tax. What are you, crazy?
Yeah.
You gotta encourage people to come in and open up their businesses.
Oh, yeah.
You don't encourage them by saying, "Come on back to Newark. We're going to tax you." Now, they wanted Amazon. They didn't tell Amazon, "Come to Newark. We're going to tax you." They actually turned around and wanted to give them a tax break.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's how you get business people. That's enticing.
No, you don't, because that's a lousy way of getting businesses to come. Because what about all the other businesses, the dry cleaners, your business? Nobody gave me a tax break. What you do is you leave them alone. You encourage their business by making them keep more of what they earn, and you get off their backs.
Right. Yeah. Oh, less regulation for sure. Yeah. Especially with the permitting down in New Jersey for new housing development, it's insane here.
Well,
I mean,
that's another discussion of COA and how they want to build 250,000 housing units in the state of New Jersey. We don't need them. Okay, you're going to flood the market with houses that you don't need in the areas where people don't live, don't work, don't recreate. But again, this is the court legislating through bench. It's an overreach, and then hopefully we could hopefully be able to put a stop to it.
Okay. Well, hope for the best, and well, that's what I have today. I want to thank you for your time. This was very informative, and again, thank you for coming down. I know you have a very busy schedule, and thank you, viewers, for watching. Hopefully, you found this episode just awesome, like I did. Thank you. See you next week.